Today, we are counting down the top 5 tourist traps in China. And if you don't watch this before booking your flight, you are guaranteed to fall into at least 2 of them. Let's be honest, social media filters lie. Here is what YouTube and Reddit want to tell you about the real China and how you can unlock the most breathtaking, authentic views for free. Starting at number 5 is what I call thin packagization of Chinese nature. Most of us head to epic spots like Zhangjiajie or Tianmen Mountain expecting a raw wilderness hike, the kind where you actually lace up your boots and conquer the elements. That you show up and realize you don't even need to use your legs. China's insane infrastructure has completely tamed nature. Massive outdoor escalators carved right into cliffs, glass elevators, and cable cars taking you straight to the peak. There's an old Chinese saying, the most sublime wonders of the world head into the most untouched places. But when these places get packed to the brim and the landscapes look more like a steel and concrete amusement park, it becomes really hard to connect with the raw beauty of Mother Nature. There is a fascinating cultural clash here over what nature means. In the West, some people tend to value nature as wild, rugged, and a bit dangerous, something to be conquered. In China, tourism infrastructure prioritizes extreme accessibility, designed so an 80-year-old grandmother and a 3-year-old toddler can enjoy the exact same peak. Neither approach is wrong, they just come from completely different values. If you want the real, untouched wild China, skip the commercial 5A rated mega spots, look for local hiking routes nearby, especially when you are in Sichuan, Yunnan, and Guizhou provinces. Also, a quick heads up, if the trail looks intense, hire a local guide. The views are 10 times better and the entry fee is exactly 0. Number 4 is a silent culture blind guide. Many people pay top dollar for entry into world-class historical sites like the Forbidden City or the Terracotta Warriors, only to realize the official English audio guides are a total snooze fest. You put the headphones on and it sounds like a dry, robotic math textbook.
This hall was built in the 15th century. It is 28 meters high and with 300 tons.
No storytelling, no human drama, zero cultural context. I was scrolling the other day on the YouTube Shorts and I saw a US traveler hitting on the Great Wall. They were like, oh, it's just a basic brick walls. It is not even that high. Why did I fly all this way for this? And honestly, my heart broke a little because what the attraction fails to tell you is that this is an over 2 millennia-old mega engineering project with the earliest sections dating back to the 7th century BC. Every single brick represents the blood, sweat, and tears of ancient laborers. According to a recent survey, the entire wall system across all dynasties spans over 13,000 miles. That's literally halfway around the Earth. Building that across jagged mountain ridges is an architectural miracle, but more importantly, it is not just a physical wall. It's the ultimate symbol of Chinese resilience, the shifting boundaries between the agricultural and nomadic civilizations for over the 2,000 years. The problem is that internalization at these big historic spots is usually just a literal, surface-level text translation. It completely lacks cultural translation. They just don't know how to bridge the gap and tell the story in a way that captures global audience imagination. Skip the official headsets at the gate. Instead, binge-watch independent documentary creators on YouTube before you step inside. Better yet, make public museums your very first stop in a new city. They are usually completely free, way less crowded, and often have passionate English-speaking tour guide who will share fascinating insider stories behind the dynasties. Number 3 is a literal endurance test. Western travel blogs love to show photos of the yellow mountains surrounded by peaceful, misty clouds. What they don't show you is that if you pick the wrong day or the wrong trail, you will be trapped on a narrow concrete cliffside path, completely stuck in the sea of thousands of tour groups. In China, we have a phrase for this, 人山人海, People Mountain, People Sea. This happens because of China's national holiday system. Hundreds of millions of people get time off at exact the same time, causing massive, hyper-concentrated surges at top-tier destinations. The golden rule for travel: check Chinese calendar and absolutely avoid any major national holiday like the Golden Week or Labor Day. I actually did a deep dive on the exact days you need to skip in previous video, so click the link on the top right corner to check that out. If you travel midweek during the off-peak season, you get the entire mountain to yourself. Coming in at number 2 is the death of peaceful exploration, courtesy of the booming Wanghong or influencer aesthetics. Take a look at famous historic alleys like Beijing's Nanluo Guxiang or Nanjing's Fuzimiao. You expect to stroll through ancient history. Instead, you are walking into a massive, aggressive outdoor photography studio. Every 2 meters, someone is dressed in elaborate dynasty costumes, surrounded by professional lighting grids and massive reflectors blocking the walkways. Worse, commercial photographers will literally thrust the cameras directly into your face without even asking, trying to snap a photo and force you to buy the printout for $5. It feels like you have been ambushed onto a reality TV set. This is driven by China's hyper-evolved check-in economy, or DACA. For the many modern local tourists, the primary goal of travel isn't necessarily quiet observation. It is producing flawless, cinematic social media content. When commercial photographers approach you on the street, you do not need to be that polite. Firmly use a hand gesture, look them in the eye, and say a solid no. If you want to see the authentic old architecture without flash photography traffic jams, skip the commercialized historic streets entirely. Walk just 3 blocks away into the residential side alleys where rural locals are actually living, cooking, and hanging their laundry. But don't get me wrong, dressing up in traditional Hanfu is an amazing way to experience the culture. If you really want to do it, plan ahead. Look it up online beforehand, negotiate the price, choose your location, your makeup, your style in advance, rather than making a rushed, stressful decision when you get cornered on the street. And the number 1 biggest tourist trap in China is the breathtaking lack of original aesthetic design. As a local, it honestly pains me to see this, but you come here looking for the elegant, muted, ink-painting beauty of the ancient China. Instead, you often get what I call the concrete and neon fake antique. Let's look at the famous Tenwang Pavilion. On paper, it is a legendary architectural masterpiece, but in reality, it was completely rebuilt out of modern concrete in the 1980s. To make it exciting, they blasted it with high saturation, aggressive, multicolor LED neon lights that make the 1,000-year-old architecture look like a nightclub. And it's not alone. Walk through the Datang Everbright City in Xi'an, you will see Tang Dynasty-style buildings drenched into blinding floodlights, turning what could be an elegant historic district into what feels like a theme park on steroids. And it is not just the buildings. If you visit almost any famous natural cave in China, instead of mysterious geological formations, you are greeted with bright green, pink, and electric blue fluorescent lighting strips, while a loudspeaker blasts pop music. It's a full-on visual assault. Luckily, the good news is this philosophy is slowly being challenged by a new generation of Chinese travelers who crave authenticity. If you want to see true, unruined Chinese architectural genius, look for spots that haven't been commercialized by big corporate developers. Skip the concrete replicas, do your homework, and search for the hidden, off the beaten path gems. But don't lose hope. There are still places in China that got it right. Here's one that almost no international tourists know about. Take Lanting, the Orchid Pavilion in Shaoxing, for example. Its beauty is the epitome of the classic Southern Chinese garden elegance. Dense bamboo forests, swans gliding on the water, and a winding stream flowing through the grounds. The architecture there is humble, minimalist, and deeply restrained, using only greens, whites, and slates to blend seamlessly into the nature around it. It's the same spot where the great calligrapher Wang Xizhi composed his masterpiece over 1,600 years ago, and it still feels exactly like that. If you want to experience that peaceful, poetic Chinese vibe, this is top tier. Another gem is the Baoshan Temple in Shanghai, which I mentioned in my Shanghai guide. It's tucked away, completely quiet, and showcases master-level Asian timber framing technology. Here is the ultimate takeaway to save your wallet and your sanity. China's best, most historically intact treasures are not hidden behind the expensive $40 ticket booths of commercialized 5A amusement parks. They are sitting in city-level public museums, deep in the mountains where real natural beauty lives, or down the quiet, unmapped streets of ordinary neighborhoods. Save your entry ticket budget and spend it on a mind-blowing $3 bowl of street noodles instead. Okay, finally a question for you. If you have been to China, what's the worst tourist trap you encountered? Let me know in the comments below. Do not forget to subscribe to Wikipedia China for the real decoded truth about traveling China. See you in the next one!